edition of Conversation with Adaba FM. My guest on the program today graduated from the Obafemi Awolowo University. He studied computer science with economics. He has a master's in public policy and management from the University of Manchester, and he rose to the position of deputy managing director at GT Bank. He later worked as a business analyst and policy consultant to DFID, that's the Department for International Development, UK, and later as an economic advisor at the UK Office for National Statistics. He presently works as an independent consultant and is also a member of the People's Democratic Party, and he has contested before in Ekiti State. His name is Kayode Adaramodu. You're welcome to Conversation with Adaba FM.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels.
So you did well in your chosen career in banking, in business. Some people, there are people, if they had the same opportunities you had, they would like to stay in business or in the banking sector for life. Why politics?
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Why politics? I think the simple answer will be because politics is everything. Politics is everything in the sense that to the extent that true politics is where power is vested in the people who, at the end of the day, take charge of determining the policies and the actions of government, which at the end of the day will determine the level of people's well-being, the well-being of an economy, and the general issues of prosperity. It is therefore important that we don't just abandon the political terrain for those who have not taken enough time to understand the requirements. So for me, it's like translating my experiences. I grew up in Ekiti. I was born there. I faced the normal challenges, a typical child of a farmer will face, and finding myself coming out of education and gaining that opportunity of competing with the rest, the best. I felt I could do something much more. In private capacity, yes, I was doing quite a number of things to make sure other young people who had passed through the path I passed through also gained the kind of privilege I gained. But the time came when I found myself working closely with people in government, and I felt things could be done differently, things could be done better. So it was at that point I decided.
What did you notice that made you change your mind from working with people in government?
Okay, just like you said, while going through my profile, I started my career first as a software engineer during my National Youth Service Corps. Then I went to the bank. I would say that the kind of work ethics you find in the private sector, where every single effort is targeted at a predefined or at a set of predefined results, are promoted. You don't get that in the public sector. It is like garbage in, garbage out. Whatever it is that you produce, nobody cares. Whether you are meeting any form of performance requirements or targets, nobody cares. And for that reason, you discover that most times when you find yourself in the public sector environment, you just see people doing things lackadaisically. And the aggregate of those inefficiencies are what we see in our systems, in our system today. Economy is not progressing. Why? Students are leaving school, they can't find jobs. Why? Hospitals are there. They have turned to, largely, a place where people just want to take time before they pass on, or just to have psychological feelings that they are being treated. So whatever you are seeing as inefficiencies in the public sector is as a result of the kind of mindset we have promoted over the years. So for me, I felt the knowledge in the private sector and my personal passion for seeing things improving, challenging the status quo. Maybe my computer background has also prepared me in that manner. I like challenging status quo. I'm not comfortable with any system that doesn't.
When you say that, you talked about the lack of productivity and the attitudes of people, especially civil servants, people in the public sector. Why do you think that is? Does it have to do with the civil servant or leadership? Political leadership now?
I would say it's a mixture of so many things. It is always very easy to say leadership because we feel that leaders are meant to show the way.
Yeah, policy direction.
Yeah. But I think beyond that, I would talk about the value system. It appears because who are these leaders? They are part of us.
They are from the society.
From the society. So what are those values that the society have embraced? So for me, we have found ourselves in a society where it appears it is no longer fashionable for one to be honest. It is no longer fashionable for one to be hardworking. It is no longer a thing of pride for you to say, oh, rather than looking for money, let me hold on to my integrity. So when you have such a society, any leader you produce from that society is not likely going to do anything differently. So the leadership issues have, the process of producing our leaders is faulty because those values are there. There are details backing them. Now the public service, the people there, I joined the public service in the UK. It was deliberate. It was more of gaining practical exposure to how things are done over there. And I will tell you that starting with the laws, the public policy rules that are there, they are established for people to respect. And when they are not respected, there are consequences. Over here, we just put rules for putting sake. When they are flouted, you hardly find any consequence. So it's a combination of so many things. And of course, you talk about remuneration and all of that. It is key. Over here, you pay peanuts, and we are dealing with human beings.
Sometimes they're not paid. They're not even paid on time.
Not even paid on time. And here we are. All human beings want to satisfy certain basic needs. You start with shelter. An average man wants to live to a point where he can produce shelter for himself and the family. Mobility is not a luxury. We want people to hustle. People want to have that. And how much do we pay? So when you realize the reality and we are just dodging it, we are avoiding it, the consequence will be a collapse of whatever system you think you have established.
Does this also have anything to do with the kind of life that Nigerian politicians lead around there? You have a neighbor who is not even as educationally qualified as you are, and then he joins politics, becomes a councillor. You have a master's degree, he has school startup, probably OND. He joins politics, and all of a sudden he becomes a big man in Nigerian parlance now. Yeah. And you're still any pittance. Does it also have to do with that?
Like I said earlier, I talked about the value system. We have gotten to a point where it is no longer a question of
how hardworking you are.
We care more about kilobade. What is it? What has
kilowatt?
Yeah, how the process of
what's in it for me
of getting there is no longer something that we all see. So to the extent that the society has refused to condemn people who suddenly become stupendously rich overnight just because they have access to public service, then there's a problem. For me, I've said this before, if you want to become a wealthy man, there's no crime. But I have seen around the world where people those who desire to be wealthy, they look at the direction of business, the private sector. For those who want to add value to life, maybe after they have accomplished so much, after they have seen enough, and they feel this is time to now serve humanity, they come to the public sector. Public sector is not where you want to acquire money. It is to acquire, it is to gain recognition, it is to leave legacy, it is to live for the people. But over here, we have exchanged. This anybody who wants to be regional, the first area you look at
to go into public service.
Public service. And I'm using my case as a study, as a case study. Anybody who has gone through my biography will confirm this, that at the peak of my career in 2005, I was a regional manager in the bank at that time, having 16 branches reporting to me. I resigned deliberately because my long-term vision, my post-banking career intention was in the public service. I had first degree, I have MBA, I had MBA at that time, and I felt what is missing, knowledge of governance. And luckily, I secured the scholarship, the British Evening Scholarship. So I resigned from the banking job, traveled abroad, studied in the UK, traveled outside of the UK. There's a particular state in India with a very unique development experience. I went there with my colleagues, the state of Kerala. So I finished all of that. And like my MD asked, Kayode, are you going into politics? I said, no, the time hasn't come. And I returned to Nigeria, joined the bank again. I was made head of strategy and business process for engineering. But because I had gone out to acquire the knowledge, I decided, and luckily, I had an organization that was preparing younger people for future leadership opportunities. So my bank gave me the opportunity of putting one leg in the bank, one leg in the political arena, when I supported the aspiration of my big brother there, the Engineer Segun, to become a governor in the Ekiti state.
In 2007.
In 2007, And at that time, he offered me opportunities to work in his government, including positions of SSG, Commissioner for Finance, which I rejected. I said, no, it wasn't because I wanted to come in at this point. All I needed was to support a decent man to become a governor. He's a decent man, and he became. So I took my time to prepare for this day. And at a point, I contested to go to Senate, courtesy of his own support, but that was before the court took him out. So I left the system, went back into consultancy, doing things for the states in southwest Nigeria, with DFID, public debt management, strategy for improving IGR, private sector development strategy. These are the things I did before I later joined the civil service. All of this, I had been doing them, hoping that one day an opportunity may come to serve Ekiti people. If the opportunity doesn't come, I've lost nothing. But if it comes, it won't be that I'm unprepared.
Okay.
So I wish this is how we allow the recruitment process, to be guided by, political philosophies and processes that can guarantee better.
Well, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Adaba Conversation with Adaba FM, and my guest in the studio is Mr. Kayode Adaramodu. He is from Ilawe in Ekiti State, and he has just picked the PDP nomination form. So he's a governorship aspirant. Let me ask you this. I was listening to El-Rufai, the governor of Kaduna State, and he said the best way to run government is to run it as a private enterprise. Do you agree?
I will say yes and no.
Okay.
If you run government with as a private entity, you might be missing some things. Because what guide these two areas, they are not exactly the same. The motivation behind most private sector organizations or activities is profit. For government, it is not always that. In fact, what government does most of the time has more of economic and social implications rather than looking at the commercial aspect. But if you inject the mindset,
the efficiency,
which I believe what the governor is trying to preach, the mindset, the private sector mindset, the entrepreneurial mindset, where you can't spend if you have not earned, where you cannot move forward if you have not delivered, where you don't go home until job is delivered. Those are the kind of mindset I want to believe he's talking about. And I also want to add, in addition to having such mindset, where people are also rewarded in line with their productivity. So if we bring that into the public sector, I would believe most likely we'll get improved results.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your home state. It's largely a civil service state.
Yeah.
And from 1996, or let's begin from 1999 when the state had its first executive governor.
Yes.
Successive administrations in Ekiti State have not been able, to fully turn the state from an economy largely serviced by civil servant to one that is investment driven. Why do you think that is?
It is all about the vision. I want to commend and say thank you to those who have been our governor and even to the current governor. Whatever they have done so far, I would say it's a reflection of their vision. But very painfully, my press release on October 1, when Ekiti was celebrating 25, actually captured how I personally feel about Ekiti State. Our founding fathers had a dream, a clear dream of how they want Ekiti State to look like. I have taken time, I've studied, I've read, I've gone through books, including the blueprint for the creation of Ekiti State. But very unfortunately, it appeared after the creation. I don't want to throw any blame to our founding fathers, but I would think that if they have stayed back to do more in midwifing the process that produced
by not leaving everything to chance,
that have led us most likely would have gotten results that are better than what we are getting. If you look at Ekiti since 1999, politically, we've been very unstable. One party comes in, another party takes over. Even within one party, there was a period, you will say about 3 people occupied the office of the governor of Ekiti State.
From Fauci to Friday, Adaremi, Olujimi was also linked to the governorship at the time.
Thank you.
And then later we had Oluni, the late Oluni.
Thank you. So when you see all of that, and none of these people, you won't say any of these people at any point in time took time to draw up a blueprint or to look at the original blueprint that our founding fathers handed over. So for me, it is not too late for us to have a rethink. I have said the Ekiti of my own dream is a fountain of wisdom. We are claiming
fountain of knowledge, yes.
Knowledge that is not rightly applied amounts to nothing. In fact, it's more of a liability. The Ekiti of my dream is a fountain of wisdom. And I'm hoping, I'm praying that the opportunity comes where we can regather ourselves to revisit the original blueprint.
But looking at Ekiti, what potentials do you think the state has that could help in, rejigging the economy?
There is no aspect you touch in Ekiti that cannot turn Ekiti around. Let's start with agriculture. I was talking to a group of young people in Ekiti a few days ago. One of them said he's into farming and is cultivating cocoa. I commended him. And I told him, from what I know, the value chain around cocoa globally today is about $67 billion. The highest producers of cocoa are in Africa.
That should be Cote d'Ivoire.
Cote d'Ivoire, with about 2 million metric tons per annum, followed by Ghana, about 800,000 metric tons. Nigeria, the giant of Africa, is just about 300,000. And Ekiti, that used to be the land of cocoa, Ondo State that used to be the land of cocoa in the old western region, what is the size today? About 30,000. So if we return to agriculture and we say, okay, the cocoa that we had then, if we are focusing just on cocoa, that's what Cote d'Ivoire is focusing on, and they are running their economy with it. That can turn things around in Ekiti. We want to go to other areas of farming. We can achieve the same type of result. You want to leave agriculture, you want to come to the knowledge area to demonstrate that truly Ekiti is a fountain of knowledge. Today we talk of knowledge economy? How do you run it? Last year, I was looking at the financials of some of the technology organizations, companies around the world. You look at Apple. Revenue of Apple in the previous financial year was about $260 billion. Facebook, that we all use, about $71 billion. Amazon, about $280 billion. These are organizations, small companies. Nigeria, what are we running after? Oil. The total revenue from oil, on the average, even when it was good, when the prices were fairly high, was about $12 billion, which is less than 1/5 of ordinary Facebook compared to the other ones I've just mentioned. CIT, company income tax, that Apple paid. I was just looking at this analysis for my personal consumptions and for me to feel, once again, where are we missing things? Apple on its own paid about $10.5 billion as company income tax. The entire company in Nigeria, maybe I should convert that to Naira for people to appreciate. That would be about 5 trillion Naira. The entire company in Nigeria, the same period, what was our total company income tax? About 1.5 trillion Naira, which is still less than 1/3 of one company is paying in America. So these companies that I've just talked about, it is what is pushing them is not mineral resources, it is not agriculture, but it is the quality of human thinking, knowledge. So if it is a fountain of knowledge, is it difficult for us to begin to think about how we can tap into the knowledge and the talents of our people to create wealth out of it? It is possible. Good enough I have a software background, IT background, and have network of friends here and there who are doing exploits. If we go into that area, we will be successful. You go to other areas, sports, entertainment. I will use my own case. I had the football club that I managed. I will still manage that club. There are some few things I realized we didn't do right. By the time we fix them, they are coming back. But the period I managed them, I took these boys out of Nigeria. They were all Ekiti young boys. They represented Nigeria in the Youth International Tournament. And 3 of these guys are playing outside Nigeria today. Any good money. They are sons of Ekiti. The talents were picked from Ekiti. We only took them out for 2 weeks for that tournament. And from there, to the glory of God, they've been able to take their talents further. So there is no area you want to touch in Ekiti that you cannot translate into wealth if you are genuine about your intentions and deliberate about those intentions.
Now, Nigeria operates a federal system of government. There's no way you turn in Nigeria that you will not find things that you can turn into money. Even if the national government is not doing well, what about the subnational government? I'm talking about the state government now. There are a lot of people who have put the blame at the doorstep of the governors that they have not been creative enough. All they do is to wait for handouts from Abuja on a monthly basis. Do you think this is true?
It is true. Personally, I have concerns about the current structure, both political and fiscal, the fiscal structure. It is true we have the center that is unhealthily very big. What do I mean by this? You look at the federal allocation, you see what goes to the federal government. About 52.68% of our revenue is for the federal government, one federal government. We have 36 states. They get 26.72. And 774 local governments, they get only 20.6% of that revenue. And where are the people? They are at the local level. So, and the local level where the needs of our people, when you look at the Constitution, even what are those things that are the responsibilities of the local government? You talk of primary education, basic education.
Motor parks.
Yeah, it's for the local government to handle.
Markets and
primary health care.
Yes.
It's local government. So in terms of responsibilities and how monies are shared, I have concerns. Money is even going to state. When you take it, the 26.72%, apart from the 40% which is on equality, we now begin to see 30% based on population, 10% on landmass. Indices that are so ambiguous in terms of how do you want to measure them. But even with all those weaknesses around the fiscal structure, I still feel the state governments need to do more. 2014, I was a consultant to DFID on strategy for improving internal revenue generation in southwest Nigeria, including Kwara. We brought all the commissioners of finance, chairmen of board of internal revenue, key officers in the finance ministries in all the states to Akure here. Akure partnered with DFID to run that program. I was one of the consultants. I actually looked at Lagos and Ogun State together, and we all made presentations. A declaration that I made in 2014, I think Channel ran it for like a day or two. I said, with the way things are going, if we don't check, talking to state government now, if we don't check our ways, I pray that in 6-7 years' time, we won't be looking at 2014 and be missing the best period of our lives. What did I mean? In terms of economic independence indices, states are failing. When in a state you cannot generate enough revenue to pay your overhead, you cannot generate enough revenue to meet your recurrent expenditure, to pay personnel costs, there is trouble. For me, any state that wants to genuinely develop should be looking at money coming from Abuja as extra, as money that should go into capital development. If you have employees, we are in Adaba. If you are in this place and you are not able to generate enough revenue to meet your overhead, to break even, there'll be serious trouble. It's different from the money you need for expansion and to buy new equipment and all of that. But to pay your salary, which is a measure of your productivity, and this is the situation we have found ourselves. So I would say that these state governments, they have also taken advantage of the lack of knowledge of most of us in Nigeria. They are hiding under that. Every little thing it is the federal government has not done this, has not done that. There are so many things a state government can do that the law permit them to do without looking at the federal government. So it is high time the state leadership begun to look at opportunities that are resident in their localities. That is where redevelopment can come from.
Now, talking about, you said what is coming from Abuja should go into capital development. Now, a lot of people have said even the little that comes from Abuja is mismanaged. Recently, when Ekiti opened his liaison office in Lagos, not a few came out to condemn that move, that a project like that, at a time like this, when resources are scarce, a project that is not regenerative. In justifying that, the governor said the project is to, how did they put it, to project Ekiti to the world. What is your take about such a project at this time, at this point in time? Liaison office.
I like the way you've captured this. The problem of Ekiti is more of a resemblance of our problem in Africa. These days you see a lot of jokes on social media, but truly if you look at some of these jokes, they are food for thought. I read somewhere where they wrote, they indicated an African leader who borrowed money from a developed country, dressed in one big expensive attire, expensive shoes, drove an expensive vehicle to attend a meeting with the president of the lender who rode into that meeting on a bicycle. we try to impress people who don't even have our time to see what we are doing to cleanse of admiring us. When we are struggling in Ekiti on a monthly basis, at the end of every month in Ekiti, for the past 6 months, the government run a deficit of about 700 million naira. Because of these, salaries have been reduced, allowances have been reduced, subventions to subvented institutions have been cut by half. Our pensioners, what are they getting? Promissory notes, liabilities that the present government will not pay. The subsequent government will pay it. And you are saying you want to project Ekiti. For me, don't let me go too much into that. By the grace of God, that property will not be a waste. I'm hoping the opportunity to be.
You can't campaign.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, sorry.
Let's not go into that.
So
I'm
believing. Yeah, let me say it this way. I'm believing that a forward-thinking leader will know what that property can be used for. A license office in Lagos, yes, it's fashionable, but it's not a need at this time.
Now, let's talk about election in Ekiti and the way Ekiti people make their choice. Now, leadership determines policy direction, and in your interaction with Ekiti people and what you've observed so far, because I've discussed with some people who said that at every election cycle, Ekiti people make a mistake in choosing the right person. So is it that, or is it that at every election cycle, the poverty is weaponized against them? By making them make a wrong choice. So which is it?
I have an experience, and I think I will share that. But before that, let me say, I love you seeing illustrations to send my message home. We all men, before we go to a barber, we want to find out how good that barber is. Because we're afraid of somebody cutting our hair poorly, thereby we lose our beauty and whatever. The same thing with our women. But I've also said this: if a barber makes a mistake cutting your hair the wrong way, it won't take more than 3 to 4 weeks. The hair will grow back. You can get that corrected. That if we can pay attention to such a minute issue, an issue that when it becomes problematic, you can find solution to it within that short period of time. How I wish that at every election cycle, we give ourselves that kind of time to think through. Of all these people parading themselves as the next Messiah, what have they done with their lives? Anybody who has never, who cannot use even his own family, what he has done within his own family, to demonstrate what he wants to do with families that constitute a society, shouldn't be somebody who we take serious. So when you talk of poverty, yeah, it is sad that people are poor. People are looking for survival. And politicians have found an inroad to say, oh, since all they need is money, we give them their money. But if our people decide, if they make up their mind, there is always a cutoff time. And I'm feeling that time is very near. If the people make up their mind, politicians will bring the money. They will take the money, yet they will do what is required. When I contested for Senate in 2011, they asked an elderly woman, she appeared to be the oldest in the gathering, to pray for me in one of the communities where we had the final round of campaign. That elderly woman held her breast and asked all the women there, you know what these things are in our environment.
The spiritual implication.
Yeah. Asked all the women, please hold your breast and let's begin to pray for this young man. I was quite young then, a lot younger than this. So let's start praying for him, if not just for him, for the sake of our own children. They prayed very well. I was touched. 3 days after was the day of the primaries in Ikere, Ekiti. Because this woman is an illiterate, for people who couldn't read no right. They were to vote by pointing at the posters of the aspirant they want to vote for. Our agents were holding our posters. So immediately I saw the woman. I counted her in my mind that, okay, that's one more delegate. But that woman saw my poster, jettisoned it. 2, 3 other posters. The fourth one, she pointed at it. And that was the poster of the incumbent senator who I was running against. Who was 7. I was running against him.
Who would, of course, be a money bag.
And the senator was beside me. I held his leg. I said, Oga, how much did you give to Mama? That this was the woman who led the prayer. So what happened? Oga gave 40,000 naira. I gave 10. And in my own campaign, I told them I will give money, but just to reimburse your cost of transportation and feeding. But my Oga gave 40, So what am I trying to bring here? He just saw 40,000 naira. And for that purpose, the prayer of 2 days ago was no longer necessary.
Somebody who prayed with our breast.
Exactly. So you see these kind of situations and you wonder, for me it is no longer poverty that I would say.
What do you think it is?
Okay, I describe poverty of the mind more than what we say as the
poverty of the mind.
Of the mind. 40,000 naira, how I wish it could solve all the problems. I would do more. You understand? But
they have a way of saying it. They say, Osebe.
Those it's so sad. The politicians created these products. You understand? But I'm very sure one day the people will say that these are all deceptive methods of putting them in slavery.
Like I said, you picked the PDP nomination form.
Yeah.
How much was that? Because the APC is going for 22.5 now. How much did yours?
I think we are cheaper. We did
yours is how much?
21 million naira.
Now you know why I'm asking you that. You know why I'm asking you that. We are not. We're talking about the cost of nomination form.
Things are cheaper with PDP.
Exactly. 21.22 point is the same thing. Now, why I'm asking you that, the electoral bill, which of course many governors are fighting against because of the provision for direct primaries, which makes it compulsory for all political parties to embrace, to go the route of direct primaries. Now, but Abiy Amira, in trying to explain, he said it will enable young people, more young people, to contest because the delegate system, of course, costs money. But when political parties have these huge price tags, 22.5, 21.5, how effective is that kind of provision in the electoral law? Bill, should it become law? How effective would that be? With this kind of, how many young people can afford to churn out 21.5 million or 22.5 million naira?
I will say this, politicians in Nigeria, we are all the same. You understand? We are all the same. We will always find one explanation.
Even though I just know that the lawmakers are fighting for their own survival because of the overbearing nature of their governors.
Anybody who wants to consider the Nigerian young people, the youths, please get them jobs. Get them jobs before you even start thinking of getting them
having them in politics.
Yeah, having them in politics. Without the jobs, without them acquiring what is the basic needs before joining politics, you are also going to put them in trouble. So I don't think that is the explanation for what is going on. And let me also say this. It's so painful when I see X this, X that in Nigeria. When they come on the stage like this and they start talking, an outsider who never knew who they were would think, oh, what a crusader. I wish this man. Oh, I wish this person was in government. I was in government. They come out of government, they come out of power, they come out of relevance, and all of a sudden
they become a saint all over.
All over. The people who are championing the cause of direct primaries today, when they were all in that position, what did they do with power?
Some of them were governors.
Yeah, what did they do with power? They did the same thing. So it's not the case of these current governors. It's not the case. But I also pray this. It's a good prayer. I love prayer. May the Lord Almighty put confusion in the camp of Nigerians' enemies. If these politicians are our enemies, let them continue to be confused and be fighting against one another. Getting our people involved in direct primaries, sincerely speaking, is not going to be the solution per se.
But do you think it's a good move?
It is a good move.
You think it will help?
Ultimately,
Okay.
it may not be immediately. People who understand how to say multiply 2 by 2 and get 10, they are still alive. So whether it is direct or indirect, yeah, they are still alive. So
The politicians will always find a way.
they will always find a
a
way.
way.
But we have to start from somewhere.
All right. So let's talk about the primaries in your party. Like I said, you picked the nomination form.
Yeah.
What would you say to members of your party? Should the president sign the bill into law? What would you say to PD members in the Ekiti state? What should they look out for in picking a candidate for the party to contest the 2022 election?
It's a message I've been taking around. I'm a PDP member, no doubt. But do you know my number one party? It is Ekiti. I am praying seriously with the best of Ekiti, govern Ekiti. Over time, I have realized that the real politicians in Ekiti, they are in PDP. In terms of number, I think they are also in the majority. But it has always been very difficult for us, for the party to work together as a team. It is my hope. We have 2 months to our primaries. It is my hope that the leaders, both in Ekiti and outside Ekiti, will see the need for us to unite, to come together, talk to ourselves. If what we are seeking for is truly an opportunity to serve our people, there shouldn't be any desperation. Let's come out with our agenda. Let's come out with our plans. About 17 of us picked the form. Yeah? Some will say 9 plus 8. That 9 serious contenders and 8 sponsored aspirants. It doesn't matter. You might even think you are sponsoring somebody. If God says that is the person, there's not anybody can do. But for me, the appeal is, let's all come together. If Ekiti truly is our concern, let's come together, talk to ourselves, and look for someone who not only can win for the party, but who can help us move Ekiti forward. That is the most important thing. So it's a message I've been taking around, and I won't stop.
The leadership tussle between Fauci and Olujimi, has that been resolved? Has that been put to rest? Who's the leader of the party now?
I've granted interviews on this issue of Fauci and Olujimi. These are fantastic friends. So honestly, maybe politicians like us, like me, trainees, who fail to take time to understand what is going on, we just put himself in the middle of two. These are very clearly friendly people. They are friends to one another. It's just this, which is not even a bad thing in itself if we do it decently. Fauci has his own ways of getting things done. Mama too has her own ways. So their inability to agree. And let me also say this, the group that Mama Olujimi belongs to, she's just a symbol of the group. She's not the only person there. There are many, but I will tell you, discussions are going on. Every day are talking. And let me put myself there, we are talking. So the issue of factions are not as deep as they are being projected in the press. The conversation is already going on between these principal actors.
Okay, one of the raging debates in Ekiti State in the build-up to the 2022 election is the issue of zoning.
Yeah.
People in the South call it Ekiti South agenda. You're from Ekiti South.
Yeah.
Ilawa is in Ekiti South. But the truth, as some people have argued, is that at every election cycle, we've had people from Ekiti South come out to contest, right from 1999, 2003, 2007, 2011, 2015, even in 2019. So why should Ekiti people take to zoning, especially as power is not served a la carte? It seems that people in Ekiti South are saying, the rest of Ekiti should solve and this thing to us on a platter of gold, that we deserve it, as though the other zones do not deserve it.
Okay, let me use this opportunity to correct some misgivings and poor understanding of this agitation. People have listened to my interview before, and even today I think I've said it. May the best of Ekiti govern Ekiti. Yeah? But that doesn't exclude some basic facts. 1999, I don't think our leaders gathered anywhere to say it should go to Central when Oga Adaba became governor. No. And I don't think it was because it was zoned that Governor Fayose emerged in 2003. But I can tell you comfortably that in 2007, there was that understanding. It wasn't a law. It wasn't written anywhere. But there was that understanding that the next governorship should go to the north.
But there were people who considered on the platform of other political parties from the south.
Which was why they couldn't win. Because they knew Ekiti people wanted a governor from the north. I was in PDP, even though I was still in the bank, but I was following what was happening in the PDP. And I will say this to you. If you look at the primaries of PDP in 2007, the person who had the highest figure in PDP was Akure from Ekiti North, followed by Professor Shegun from Ekiti North. Thank you.
Yes.
Followed by Engineer Shegun from Ekiti North. If there was no understanding, number one, number two, number three, couldn't have happened that way. And when you look at what happened in ACN then, it was also
AC.
AC. Governor Kayode Adaramodu, Senator Ayo Arishe, and all of that, all from Ekiti North. There was that understanding that preceded those primaries. And I will say this, I'm on record. 2014, ahead of 2014, I approached Engineer Shegun to say, okay, because I won't lie to you, the way he was removed in government, I felt for him. He's a man who has good intentions and all of that. I went to him, okay, why don't we go for a second run?
He was in AP. He went to APC.
No, before then.
Okay, before he went to APC.
Yeah, and he said to me, God, in the spirit of equity, justice, and fairness, this thing should go to Ekiti South. Fantastic thinking. Fantastic person, human being. And on that basis, I joined Prince Dayo Adeyeye. I supported him in 2014, ahead of 2014 election. He didn't win, but that was the situation. That was the case.
But we need later pieces then with Fayemi from Ekiti North.
Which is where, if you ask me, where I have personal concerns about my boss. You understand? You say this, you act differently. Issues around decision making, that is not why we are anyway. But beyond all of this, I mentioned the blueprint for the creation of Ekiti State. Anybody who cares to find this out will see on page 7 and page 8 of that document that page 7 talked about power sharing and page 8 specifically talked about zoning as part of the principles. We were still looking for a state then. How do we want to run our state? Those were the provisions, the principles that were provided in that material that will guide our political process. So to that extent, and I also said this, people have said we are homogeneous, I agree. But I have asked almost all my friends who are princes, those from royal families, those from chieftaincy houses, family houses with chieftaincy titles, to find out what happens. I don't know in your community, but in my community, the royal house,
they are always ruling houses and ruling rotation.
And they rotate.
Yes.
So I don't see how Ekiti can be more homogeneous than the royal houses, where rotation and zoning is taking place. So it is not out of place if that understanding is provided. Nobody is saying other people should not contest. No, that's not the idea. We are just saying Ekiti people, for what we stand for, it is not out of place. If this time around you cooperate, even in every society, there are people you call vulnerable. Let us even think Ekiti South are vulnerable. Make provisions for the vulnerable segment of Ekiti State. It's not out of place. But the truth is, we have brilliant, excellent individuals in Ekiti South who can do this job. and do it perfectly. So my campaign is not, or my aspiration is not drawing a strength.
We are not talking about your campaign.
It's not drawing a strength from.
And we are not talking about your aspiration. So it's the same thing, campaign and aspiration. So don't put me in trouble.
But the truth is, I am appealing to Ekiti people. Let's move Ekiti forward, and let's embrace one another, and let justice, equity, and fair play, let it have a role to play.
Yeah, before we call it a day on conversation with Adaba FM today, let's talk a bit about Nigeria. As it is presently, there's price instability, the economy is not doing so well, the currency is weak. How can we have a turnaround from all of this?
The best way to have a turnaround is for us to adopt a non-oil export economy.
But this government has been mouthing that they've just diversified the economy.
You've talked, that is the problem, mouthing it. Even before this government, we've all been talking about diversification. And very unfortunately, we have not approached the idea, the policy idea, the right way. And that is why it is important. The next set of economic team members we will have, I don't know which party will produce the next government. We must look at that direction. If we hadn't done it before, we will say, yes, it is because we don't understand it, because we don't have practical proofs. Pre-1970, where were we getting our foreign earnings? The food abundance, food supply was in abundance in Nigeria. Where were we getting them from? Agriculture, cocoa, rubber, cotton, palm oil. They were coming from those sources. It is only when we are able to produce what we need and we are able at the end of the day to have a net export that we can generate foreign earnings. So if what we have that people out there are paying for, I love trying to discuss economic issues in a layman language. If what you are selling that is giving you foreign earnings, if it's more than the things you are buying, that you have to pay naira for, price stability can be guaranteed. What we are facing right now is a situation where more than half of our needs are being imported. And we are not selling anything to the rest of the world.
Yes.
That could give us those foreign currencies to take care of the things we are paying for. So it is every time excess naira that we are carrying around to look for those foreign currencies, and for the law of demand and supply. Since that when the supply is when demand is more and supply is little, price will go higher. So if we are talking about currency exchange rate is moving up and down, they are only reflecting the situation we have found ourselves. These things are clear. It requires a government, a leader that understands these basic issues, and we approach them pragmatically.
Some people have also blamed middlemen when it comes to price stability, especially of food items.
Yeah.
And some have suggested that state government should have some sort of agency that regulates prices, that controls prices. Do you subscribe to the idea?
That takes us back to the pre-1970 and, post-1970, the earlier part of that period. What did we have then? Marketing boards. Yeah? That is serving as the regulatory institutions for farm produce and all of that. The state government, if we want to run a true market-oriented economy, all you need is for the government to regulate. You allow prices to be determined by those forces we talked about. It is not the duty of government to say, sell at this, sell at that. It is only when it is clear that for certain reasons, majority of our people may not be able to participate or be able to pay those prices, that issue of subsidy comes in. But I am not also a promoter of that approach. But basically, if the government is creating that enabling environment, create the right infrastructure, and let the private sector, let them go into business, do their businesses and let consumers buy as they like. Those things have a way of adjusting for themselves. So it is not for government to begin to dictate prices. It won't work. Places where that has happened before, it's always a matter of time. It's not sustainable. So government's job is to create that right atmosphere for businesses to thrive.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kayode Adaramodu. He is a PDP governorship aspirant on the in Ekiti State. He has picked the nomination form and he will be contesting in the PDP primaries next month, January next year. Thank you very much for coming on Conversation with Adaba FM. My name is Dimeji Danis, and this is where we draw the curtain to this edition of the program. Good afternoon and thanks for listening.